Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo
Narayana Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayam Udirayat Nastaprayesu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. So Hare Krishna everyone, good morning. So today we are going to read Canto 5 from Srimad Bhagavatam, Chapter 4, the characteristics of Rishabhadev, and text 16. This is in prose. I think therefore we don't have it on the board. I will just read it. Yatyapi sva viditam shakala dharmam brahmam guhyam brahmanair darshita margena samadibir upayar janatam anushashasa. Word by word. Yatyapi, although, sva viditam, known by him, shakala dharmam, which includes all different types of occupational duties. Brahmam, Vedic instruction. Guyam, very confidential. Brahmanai, by the Brahmanas. Darshita Margena, by the path showed. Sama Adibi, Sama Dhamma Tidiksha, controlling the mind, controlling the senses, practicing tolerance, and so on. Upayai, by the means. Janatam, the people in general. Anusasasa, he rules over. Translation and purport given by His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Although Lord Rishabhadev knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus, he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which enjoins that the Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas and the Kshatriyas administer the state through the Vaishyas and Shudras. Purport. Although Rishabhadev knew all the Vedic instructions perfectly well, he nonetheless followed the instructions of the Brahmanas in order to perfectly maintain the social order. The Brahmanas would give advice according to the Shastras, and all the other castes would follow. The word Brahma means perfect knowledge of all activities. And this knowledge is very confidentially described in the Vedic literatures. Men trained perfectly as Brahmanas should know all the Vedic literature, and the benefit derived from this literature should be distributed to the general populace. The general populace should follow the perfect Brahmana. In this way, one can learn how to control the mind and senses and thus gradually advance to spiritual perfection. Om Akyana Timirandasya Jnananchala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Tata Disvapadantiham. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Udapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rubam Sakrajadam Sakana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvedam Savadudam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sakana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitamscha Ek Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Shude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpadarupyasha Kripa Sindhupyevacha Patitanam Pavanepyo Vaishnavepyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Kadadara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Although Lord Rishabhadev knew everything about confidential Vedic knowledge, which includes information about all types of occupational duties, he still maintained himself as a Kshatriya and followed the instructions of the Brahmanas as they related to mind control, sense control, tolerance, and so forth. Thus he ruled the people according to the system of Varnashrama Dharma, which enjoins that the Brahmanas instruct the Kshatriyas and the Kshatriyas administer to the state through the Vaishyas and Shudras. So here we are describing the activities of Lord Rishabhadev. He came to preach the Bhagavad Dharma, something that is higher than just liberation or just mitigating our material miseries. Later in the next chapter, we will actually hear all his famous preachings and all his teachings, where he says the very valuable life of a human body, that we should not let our senses degrade this opportunity, and that the basic bondage to this material world is through female and male attraction, and we should associate with devotees so that we can get out of it. So he came to preach this message, and the word preach has a bad connotation in this world over the history, because usually when people hear preach, they think people are going to impose something on them. They are telling them something without they having asked for it. But also because one possibility is also that through the history, people have preached, but they themselves have not followed what they preached. They didn't walk their talk, so therefore the word preaching has a bad connotation. But in the Sanskrit verse, we have the word prachar, which means you preach by achar, you preach by behavior, personal example. And this is the perfect way to preach. And when we now look at this section of the Bhagavatam, the previous verse, which we discussed, was, whatever action is performed by a great man, common man will follow. So when we preach on this principle, this is the most effective way of preaching. This verse, the previous, so to say, after the previous verse, all what we now discuss in all the coming verses, Shukadeva Goswami is now going to explain how Lord Rishabhadev is preaching by his personal example. Next chapter we will hear his teachings, but here in these verses we will hear how he himself gives a good example, and then later we'll talk why he is doing it this way. And this verse, whatever action performed by a great man, common man will follow, we also hear Krishna speaking to Arjuna. He in fact says to Arjuna, there is no prescribed duties for me to do. There is nothing in this world, in this material world, I am obliged to do. There is nothing I want actually in this material world, and there is nothing for me to get out of this material world. But still, Arjuna, I am doing my prescribed duties. And why is it so? Because people will follow what great man will do, and if Krishna himself does not show the example, then he says to Arjuna, he will be the cause of ruination to the society. He will be the cause why there will be unwanted population in this world. And he will be the cause why there will be no more peace. But Krishna, he doesn't have any obligation to do. Actually, he is actually the lawmaker. Yamaraj tells to his Yamadutas, Dharmam tu Shakshat Bhagavat Pranitam, that the Lord actually enacts Dharma. He's the maker of Dharma. He's the lawmaker, Dharma maker. So the Yamadutas come to Yamaraj and tell, look, the Vishnu Dutas came and wanted to free Ajamil, but Yamaraj tells, look, Krishna makes Dharma. He is the one who decides. He has the right, whatever he wants to do with Ajamil. Even if Ajamil acted sinfully, at the end it's in Krishna's hand, because he enacts Dharma. Yudhishthira, he's the son of Yamaraj, so Yudhishthira knows all the dharmic principles. But when Krishna tells to Dharmaraj Yudhishthir, tell the lie that Ashwatthama is dead, then that is Dharma, because Krishna says what is Dharma. But of course, so in this way, look, Krishna can decide what is Dharma, but still he lives by example. In fact, he didn't just spoke the Gita, but he himself acted exemplary. He even left his beloved Vrindavan so that he can go out and teach to the people the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. He was guiding the Pandavas because he knew the world is going to look upon the Pandavas, and Mahabharata is going to be a very, very famous epic in this world. So people are going to follow the Pandavas. So he is instructing and guiding the Pandavas to set a good example to this world. There is happening the Rasasraya sacrifice Yudhishthira is doing. And in this Rasasraya sacrifice, all the great personalities arrive, unimaginable personalities. Even Vyasadeva, Narada Muni, all come to Indraprastha. Even, it said, Shiva, Lord Brahma, and even Indra, they come to that place of the Rasasraya sacrifice. But on that day when Yudhishthira is going to crown emperor, they want to do the worship of the most worshipable person, right? The Agra Puja. Who is the most worshipable person in this assembly? And they decide it is Krishna himself. So they give the first respect and the most worship to Lord Krishna, in this way showing the position of Krishna. But Krishna himself, what does he do? When all the guests who come to the Rasasraya sacrifice, all the brahmanas, all the sadhus, Krishna personally welcomes them, bathes their feet, and serves these sadhus and brahmanas. Even though Krishna is the most worshipable person, by this example, he's washing their feet of these brahmanas and sadhus. They want to worship and wash Krishna's feet, but here, by personal example, he shows, even though he is the most worshipable, he sets an example. Also, like in this way, he's showing what it means hospitality, and I think also for us devotees, we should also think about how we can welcome and serve the guests who come here. This is a very important principle for us. But of course, not all the activities of Krishna, we cannot follow all the activities of Krishna. He breaks some pots, he steals the butter, and then tells he wasn't doing this. So we cannot go to the kitchen, steal the yogurt and say, it was not me. Or Krishna steals the clothes. We cannot steal clothes and say, look, Krishna was doing this also. These activities Krishna does for his loving exchange with his devotees. And this is his lila. This is his rasa which he experiences with his devotees, which is very confidential. And we cannot make the mistake that then we say, Krishna did it, so I am doing this also. This is very intimate, confidential pastimes, how Krishna deals with his devotees. So therefore, Krishna himself knows that people will not always know what to follow or not. Therefore, he has certain incarnations, certain forms, where he invests certain forms which he dedicates explicitly to show to the world what is proper behavior, proper conduct. And Krishna is a Leela Purushottam, and another form of Krishna where he actually invests or dedicates his form to just show to this world what is a proper behavior is Maryada Purushottam, his Lord Ramachandra. In this form, Krishna says you can just follow him everything because this is the proper behavior for humankind. Showing what this means guru disciple. He shows in this Leela. He's showing how parents should raise children, etc., and vice versa. He's showing how husband and wives should behave. In these forms, Krishna, by example, teaches to the world and says, these are my forms which you can follow and attain perfection. And of course, we neglect these examples and teachings. We concoct our own examples and say, this is the way we have to raise children, this is the way we have to teach to the students, and concocting our own theories and philosophies. But Krishna, just by his example, he already sets the authorities. And also Rishabhadev is another form of Krishna, where he invests or dedicates to teach the people how to follow, how to behave properly. Rishabhadev, I think the word Rishabha himself means ideal, if I'm not mistaken, the ideal personality. Rishabhadev went to Gurukul. It's said that Rishabhadev here knows all the confidential Vedic knowledge, but still he went to Gurukul. He was a brahmachari. Later, he accepts a grahastha and acts exemplary as a grahastha. And at the end, I think that's also a very famous part, he renounces everything, which is, and also exemplarily showing how he renounced everything. When I hear Rishabhadev, my first contact with him was, my parents told me how he walked naked in the streets and passed stool, and this was so aromatic, all the areas were so aromatically smelling. So when I hear his Rishabhadev, somehow always these thoughts come first. But he exemplary enacted, showed the perfect example. Because the most effective preaching method is only by showing example, personal example. Sanatan Goswami, he is glorifying Haridas Thakur. He says to Haridas Thakur, some people, they have achar, they behave well, but they don't have prachar, they don't preach. But there are other people who do nice prachar, they preach well, but they don't have any achar, they don't behave well. But Haridas Thakur, you perfectly have perfect behavior, you personally chant and serve the holy name, and at the same time you perfectly preach the glories of the holy name to this world. Therefore, Haridas Thakur, you are the most qualified guru, Sarva Guru, you are the most qualified spiritual master to this world, and you are the most advanced devotee, because you do both. In this connection, we always we have this famous story about the mother who has a child who eats too much sweet, and the mother then goes to a sadhu and requests the sadhu, can you instruct my child to stop eating sweet? The sadhu says, yes, sure, I can do. Give me just 1 week. A week passes. The sadhu tells the boy to stop eating sweet, and miraculously the boy stopped eating sweet. And the mother then later asked the sadhu, okay, thank you for the instruction. Couldn't you have told it just 1 week earlier? And the sadhu says, no, because I myself was eating sweet at that time. So when we hear this story, we just hope that no mother approaches us with his child and requests us to instruct his child to stop eating sweet. This will be a Herculean task for us to do. But this is because the power, our preaching will only have power when we have when we ourselves follow it perfectly and have these realizations. We have the word Bhajananandi, and we have the term Goshti Anandi. Bhajananandi is someone who is actually a pure devotee, but he performs his activities, devotional service, only for himself. And a Goshti Anandi is someone who preaches and shares this knowledge and this treasure to the world. And Prabhupada and Krishna says that the Goshti Anandis, they are the most favorable, most dear personalities to Krishna, because they are ready to share this knowledge to the other people. But we should not forget that the Goshti Anandi is also a perfect Bhajananandi. If he himself is not a perfect Bhajananandi, he cannot be a true Goshtianandi. Otherwise, it's just a show or a hypocrisy. You preach something which you don't yourself, which you yourself not follow. So because we only can give what we have to other people. So if we don't have Krishna ourselves, how shall we give it to other people? And the world, it will look at philosophies, or it will classify philosophies on its practical benefits to this world. We can have any philosophy, we can present any philosophies to the world, but the world, people will usually classify the philosophy according to how much benefit is this philosophy, or practical benefit is this philosophy going to give to the society. So we can present the most elevated philosophy, but if we cannot show by personal example how this philosophy is really beneficial to this world, then people will not look at it very seriously. There's Karma Kanana Maharaj at one of our Swiss retreats. He gives this very nice example. He says, when you ask a devotee, how has Krishna consciousness changed your life? Then he said, we would then answer, with his expert acting skill, he would then say, my life got better. Krishna consciousness made my life better. It was worse before, but now it is better. This is what the way we would look. Krishna consciousness has made our life better. But he says we are not here just to reduce misery, we reduce suffering. Krishna consciousness is not here that we just live a better life. Krishna consciousness is actually the perfect life we can follow. It's actually the unique and only life people should follow. And if we don't have this, if we don't feel ourselves the effect and the benefits of Krishna consciousness, we cannot convince others that this Krishna consciousness is the only way. If we don't wake up every morning, we're saying, another Krishna conscious day, let's do it, let's rock it, then how shall we inspire and enthuse other people to do? Huh? I'm speaking to myself, don't worry. Here Rishabhadev says, or the Shukadeva Goswami says, Rishabhadev, he at the end, he perfectly has mind control, sense control, he was tolerating everything, etc. And if Krishna consciousness, after practicing for a longer time, if we are not able to control our mind, we don't see how we are controlling our senses, we don't see any effects, how are we going to convince others that by chanting the holy name, your mind will be controlled, your senses will be purified, if our own senses are not purified? So in this way, we have to be examples, we have to behave, we need to have exemplary behavior in order to preach to this world. And Rishabhadev, in this verse, one thing he is preaching by his personal example is that he's taking instruction from the Brahmanas. And the Prabhupada's wish is also that we all become Brahmanas. Why Brahmanas? So that we can propagate the general populace with the knowledge of Krishna consciousness. But question is, who is a Brahmana? Who is a Brahmana? And Prabhupada gives here the word. A Brahmana has perfect Brahma. And Brahma, Prabhupada gives here the explanation, perfect knowledge of all activities. The invocation of Srimad Bhagavatam is Janmadi Yasyata Idaradas Chardesu Abhignana Swarat Tena Brahma Hridaya Adikave Mukyandiyat Suraya. There we also have the word Tena Brahma Hridaya Adikave. And here it says that the absolute truth at the beginning of creation, he instructed Lord Brahma with the perfect knowledge. Tena Brahma Hridaya. And in this verse, Brahma does not relate to Lord Brahma, but Brahma relates to Vedic knowledge, perfect knowledge, and Adi Kavya relates to Lord Brahma, the first poet. Actually, Adi Kavya is actually Krishna. Brahma is actually the second poet, but of course in this world, Brahma is Adi Kavya. And he, Krishna, instructs or imparts the knowledge into the heart of Brahma. Dena Brahma Hridaya. And of course we know Krishna instructs to Brahma the Vedic knowledge, and Vedas can be divided in 4, etc. But when we are really crucial, that Brahma, actually the true Brahma that Krishna gives to Lord Brahma, is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the essential teaching that Krishna gives to Brahma is the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So true Brahmana is someone who has realized the teachings of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Brahmana, of course, nowadays we have the misconception that Brahmanas are according to birth, according to Janma. But here we see, no, the first qualification of a Brahmana is that he has realized the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Rishabhadev himself later he will give some explanation who is a Brahmana, and he gives some explanation, and one is that a Brahmana, he doesn't seek material comforts from the Lord. Even though the Lord is the most opulent personality, he can give anything, has the most wealth, a true Brahmana doesn't seek wealth from the Lord. He lives without possession because he knows that all possessions belong to Krishna. And the Brahmana only engages himself in devotional service. And this are actually the characteristics of a true Brahmana. And this Brahmana, they have realized the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, and because they personally exemplify the message of Srimad Bhagavatam, their words, their preaching or the teaching to this world is most effective because they teach then by example. Therefore also Srila Prabhupada's words are so powerful. When we say, what will your 45 minutes talk give to the other person? I'm going to speak for 45 minutes. Afterwards you can contemplate and realize what I was speaking was valueless and useless because there is no real realization and no real proper behavior. But why we should give out the books and messages of Srila Prabhupada? Because he has the true realizations of Brahma. Because he himself has realized the knowledge of Brahma, of Srimad Bhagavatam. He is behaving exemplarily. Therefore, every word of Srila Prabhupada is affecting the people. Satsvarup Das Goswami, he explains that how Srila Prabhupada would translate or he would write purports to the Bhagavatam, and he explains, Prabhupada will do it in the night, right? But actually Prabhupada, already the whole day, Prabhupada would meditate on what purport he would give to this verse. Whole day already Prabhupada will think. Because he is thinking, what realization can I share to this world? How will the people going to accept this message? And Satsvarup Das Goswami explains, if Prabhupada has difficult times, some managerial problems coming, etc., sometimes it would take 2 to 3 days for Prabhupada to write one purport because he wanted to have really put his realizations into it and not get affected by other problems. So this is a true Brahmana. Brahmana is according to guna and karma. Krishna says, Chatuvanyam maya shrishtam guna karma vipakasha. So Brahmana is not just by birth, but he is by guna and karma. I think We hear this a lot, and we have to be also careful and cautious that we, in our movement, that we don't taint our movement with misconceptions like a Brahmana is only by birth, or a Brahmana is someone who wears a thread, or already as an initiated, just first initiated devotees, sometimes we think I am now more advanced, but if there is no real Brahma in myself, not proper guna and karma in myself, it doesn't matter if I'm first initiated or second initiated, I am not superior to other people. You know? These are external things, and we should be careful that we don't taint our movement with wrong misconceptions, because the acharyas, for centuries, they are fighting in this world, in this society, to establish what a true Brahmana is, that the true Brahmana is someone who has realized Brahma. 1,000 years ago, already Ramanujacharya is fighting against this misconception that the Brahmana is someone by birth. There are many examples in his life. One thing is, already as a child, he likes to go to his temple. His favorite activity was worshipping the Lord, the Murti, Adi Keshwar Perumal in the temple. And he has some friends who are, according to Janma, they are Shudras. But he's an innocent boy, and he's plays with his children, with his other friends, and he tells them, let's go to the temple and worship Krishna. Let's worship Adi Keshwar Perumal. And they go into the temple with his friends, who are supposed to be Shudras. And they, at that time, Shudras are not allowed to enter the temple. So the other priests who see these activities, they immediately chastise this boy Ramanujacharya and chastise their family, and they ban their family from any activities in the temple. Because Ramanujacharya just brought his friend to the temple. And it's the story, how it goes on. I mean, that Murti himself, Adi Keshwar Perumal, then corrects the priests. And this is a very special story, but I will tell it another time, how then... okay, then I tell it. So the parents, the family of Ramanujacharya, they are very sad because they are not allowed to enter the temple anymore, to do no service anymore. And then, I mean, they do just their worship at their home. And then they have also kind of a Radayatra or a procession ceremony. In the temple will have a procession ceremony where they will bring out the Murti on a palanquin, walk to the village, and then show it to the outside world. And usually what happens is, at every home, or at the most of the homes, the householders, they get the opportunity to worship the deity when the Murti is passing along this way. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki, Yashoda Damodar ki. But these priests, they plan, on that day they say, when we walk along Ramanujacharya's home, don't stop. We will not stop there. We will not give them the opportunity to worship the deity. We will just walk by and ignore them. So this was their plan, and they were doing the procession. But suddenly when they arrived at the home of Ramanujacharya, a big thunder and a big storm started to come and start to rain. And the Adi Keshwar Perumal, the Murti, he started to become wet, and they didn't know what to do. And the only possibilities was to put the Murti inside the house of Ramanujacharya. And the whole time when the storm was going on, here the family got the opportunity to serve Adi Keshwar Perumal. And after this incident, the priests understood, they did something wrong. This is not the proper behavior, and then they started to correct themselves. Already as a child, Ramanujacharya starts to break this misconception. Another unique activity what he does is also his first spiritual master, his first Shiksha Guru, Tirkachinambi, he's actually a Shudra. Ramanujacharya goes to this person, he knows Tirkachinambi is a perfect, pure devotee. He has realized Brahma. Therefore, Ramanujacharya goes to him and wants him to accept as his disciple, but he was a Shudra. And someone, a Brahmana, accepting a Shudra as a guru was unprecedented. And Tirkachinambi would tell, come, don't come to me. I am just a low-born person, don't come to me. But Ramanujacharya would insist, no, you have true Brahma realized. Therefore, I want to come to you. And give me instructions. And also an interesting story is one time, Tirkachinambi, he comes to visit Ramanujacharya at his home. But Ramanujacharya was not at that time at home. Only his wife was there. And she doesn't understand what a true Brahmana is. So she sees Tirkachinambi, but she's not letting him enter the house. And she tells him, yeah, Ramanujacharya is outside. If you want, I can give you some prasad. So she serves Tirkachinambi outside of the house. She serves some prasad. He eats and he leaves. And later Ramanujacharya comes home, and then the wife tells him, yeah, today your friend, or actually your guru, Tirkachinambi, came. And Ramanujacharya, yeah, oh my God, I forgot, I couldn't invite him. Did you allow him, did you greet him properly? She said, no, I didn't let him enter the home. I just gave him prasad outside and threw away the leaf outside. And Ramanujacharya says, what kind of behavior is this? He corrects her and says, he is a true, pure devotee, and you act like this. He goes out, he searches for the banana leaf in the streets and starts to lick the remnants of the leaf, because he understands here is a true Brahmana. 500 years ago, the Brahmana Brahmana castes or family, they reject Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, because they think Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they worked under the Muslim government, so they are not worthy of being called Brahmana. But what does Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do? Or he establishes them as Goswamis, and I think we can boldly say, in the past, in the future, and even in the present, there will be never any author writing more higher knowledge and transcendental wisdom than Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. There will be no personality in the past has written anything like Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. But that Brahmana at that time, they rejected them. But Mahaprabhu saw their true qualities. And of course, at that time, Haridas Thakur, if you were born outside of the Hindu tradition, you were not allowed, you are not looked upon as Brahmanas, as Vaishnavas. So Haridas Thakur was not allowed to enter the temple. So Haridas Thakur was not allowed to see the Lord. But what happens? The Lord himself comes every day to see Haridas Thakur. I mean, what an example. You are not allowed to go to see the Lord personally, but the Lord, to show the perfect example, I mean, to teach us, he personally comes every day to Haridas Thakur and makes him the Namacharya. And of course, also 50 years ago, Srila Prabhupada, he breaks this misconception that outside of India, outside of Bharatvarsha, no one is allowed to perform devotional service. And Prabhupada comes to this West, comes to us, we very fallen souls, and he gives us this chance to realize Brahma and to become proper Vaishnavas. So we see how the Acharyas, they really fought against these misconceptions, and we also should very carefully try to follow them and understand them, and behave accordingly and establish this principle. And as a last point here, I want to say, so we have showing you preach by being personal example, and then we see here that we discussed, or Prabhupada says, who is a true Brahmana, and then the final message of this verse is then we should all go to a Brahmana and get instruction. So this is the very essential principle in our Vaishnava tradition, that we approach spiritual masters, that we take shelter at spiritual master and also at other senior devotees, and we seek guidance from them. This is the way, by serving them, this is the way how we advance in our Krishna conscious life. I think in today's world, generally people, they don't have any more like role models. I have the feeling people don't look out to people and say, this is a nice role model I want to follow. Usually this culture becomes like this, that I myself become my role model. I do what I like to do. But that's actually opposite of what the Bhagavatam teaches us. So it's very important that we seek out spiritual master and other guide in our life. And the choice of our guides and mentors is very essential. Usually we tend to choose those devotees as our guide, which let us, which allow us to have more sense gratification, and then we say, okay, I approach him, he will allow me to do this. But this is not the proper way. We should seek out guides and mentors who themselves, first of all, are good example. Because I'm saying this sometimes, I see some friends, they say I'm taking guidance from him or that person, and that sometimes wonder, are you really sure you want to take guidance from him, from that person? It's not for discriminating someone, but it's very essential who we choose as a guide. The guide should be already, he should be himself a perfect example. He should be perfectly established in Krishna consciousness. He should be perfectly established in his ashram, for example, and be stable in Krishna consciousness for many years by personal example. And these qualifications we need to seek out in our guides and mentors we seek, and from them we should then take instructions and guides. This is very, I think, for our life, very important. The same way as Lord Rishabhadev did, even though he knew everything well, he did everything actually perfectly, he sought out these brahmanas, took instructions from them, and then ruled the world accordingly. So these were some of my thoughts. Thank you very much for your patience. And if you want to share something, we have some minutes. Otherwise, I wish you a good day. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for your lecture and also your nice stories to people. Yeah, by telling these stories that the Brahmanas wouldn't accept Rupa Sanatana or Ramanujaracharya who brought in the Shudras, etc. I was thinking that so many people are following some strange concepts, and we ourselves also, and then if we see that others are following strange concepts as well, we are thinking it's okay. And for example, in the case of Ramanujaracharya, I thought that how could everyone agree with this discriminating this house and not going to them, etc. But then I thought if we also, if some strange concepts are there and many people are following, we're thinking it's okay and it's good. So as you told, we really have to seek guidance and help, but then the honesty is very very difficult actually to do them and not to go to these concepts again and again that everyone else is doing, so I'm doing it. Maybe you can share some.
I once asked my spiritual master, I asked him what it means to truly follow Srila Prabhupada, to just repeat whatever he said and just to follow whatever he did. My spiritual master told me, if you have imbibed the mood of Srila Prabhupada, then you are truly following Srila Prabhupada. And he mentioned that we have to understand the mood and the teaching. We have to realize the mood and teachings of Srila Prabhupada and also of the other acharyas. And I think this is the key point here, that we have to realize the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, it is just external, it's just mouthwork, and it's theoretical or it's just mechanical. So I think if you imbibe the mood of Srila Prabhupada, then you will also know how to behave in this case. If you know there is some misconceptions, some discriminations, then you can identify it and also strongly stand behind it. So this is what I would say to this.
Do you have specific examples where we can go to and have a look at this one? Where it's very shortly or clearly showed what is actually the purport of the matters?
Prabhupada has given, over the years when he was in the West, he has given different instructions, right? And especially when the more the devotees advanced, he gave also more instructions and more regulations. But when we look at the initial time, how Prabhupada preached to the newcomers, it was different. And what I think about is also, when someone is new, then it doesn't make sense that we impose on them very, very high regulations and expectations. This is not the way Srila Prabhupada did it. Prabhupada gradually elevated the devotees to higher and higher stages. So if we preach, what does Srila Prabhupada first taught? It was chanting of the holy name and taking prasada. This was the only activity he told them. He didn't even tell them about the 4 regulative principles. But then later, when the time was ripe and they should make the next step, Prabhupada then let them know this is the next step. And the usual misconception we might have is that someone comes to our movement, we immediately say, this is the thing you have to do, otherwise you are out of the game. So I think probably this would be a one misconception, I think. How Prabhupada, because he realized, he has true realization, he understood what will truly start to churn and purify the heart of the soul, which was the holy name and prasadam and our association. And then with this is the fundamental principle, and on this he was then building up everything else. Thank you. Okay. Then Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Kind funktioniert plötzlich. Oder auch Seite von Sita, wie sie als Kind aufgewachsen ist und wie ihre Eltern